Hello everybody, Ryan Miles here from Untilt Gaming, and we're going to be doing a special highlight video from the Swiss rounds of GP Richardson, GP Texas, and basically just going over Zac Smithson versus Jeremy Sammons. Both of these players are 5-0 going in this round. This is round 6, and both of these players end up eventually making top 8. And Zac Smithson had some comments on the Force Wheel group saying he thought he had a lot of misplays, so I wanted to go over it, watch the game, and just kind of hopefully give him some assistance by giving my analysis of the game, and then also giving some analysis on his opponent, the things that they could have done better, etc., etc. Pretty much just kind of like a one-up thing, and of course, maybe we'll do some more things like this in the future if this is something you guys enjoy. So to start it off, we do have Jeremy Sammons versus Zac Smithson, which is Pricia versus Fiethsing, and we're just resolving mulligans right now, and here we go. We do have the deck lists available. They are both, since they both made top 8, the deck lists are available on otgaming.com/decklists, but I have not looked at them recently, and I will not be drawing on known information when making any of these analyses, just because you can't really play around your opponent's deck list if you don't know what it is at the time. So, a strong opener from, ooh, that's a wall open, never mind. Yeah, usually with the Fiethsing deck, you want to open with the Guinevere into the Regalia, sorry, so that you can try and get as much value as possible. Dig for your Death Scythes, dig for your Guibers, that kind of thing. But there is an energized Wall of Wind. The good news is, because he energized, if this is a Pricia variant or a Spinning Myths variant, it can be a bit more difficult to pop off on turn 2 with that. But he does have the Sacred Elf, which will actually threaten the turn 2 Spinning Myths. Unless we can find a Rook Egg Atom Brawley, which is what we're looking for here over on Zac's side. So that is a Ruler's of Moria, definitely the most valuable stone in any matchup, really. I mean, Fiethsing is a 5-color deck, so obviously you want to see that as much as possible. Tama here, going to draw a card. Maybe we can see a second Tama. Again, you really want to kill this Sacred Elf as quickly as possible, just in case your opponent is running the Spinning Myths version. We'll see. That's a Divine Bird. Okay. So his opponent has no Regalia, so there is no turn 2 OTK being threatened, but this Divine Bird is going to just, draw him a card down the line. But there is no way for him to kill the Sacred Elf, just only ways to draw cards, and hopefully this isn't the Spinning Myths variant, otherwise there could be a pretty big punish coming in here soon. But we will see. Looks like he's thinking about Atom Brawling. He only has green Resonators, so it's not a play that I'm particularly fond of. Ooh, I wonder if he just wants to get out the Guiber, which makes a bit of sense. It depends on his hand, to be honest. He does want to draw a card, maybe try and find the Death Scythe, but again, his opponent doesn't have any Regalia, so there's no real reason to look for a Death Scythe here. Honestly, using the Atom Brawley here and playing the Guiber makes yourself a lot more vulnerable to an Izanagi. Again, at this time, Zac Smithson doesn't know what kind of deck Jeremy is playing, doesn't know what kind of Pricia, and he is representing 3 mana. So, for example, if he does have the Spinning Myths here, it would come down, hit a Guiber, hit an Atom Brawley, and probably hit the Tama. Or you wouldn't even hit the Tama because it could sack itself. You would hit the Apollo, maybe. Nah, actually, that's a good question. I don't know what I would hit if I was going to Spinning Myths here, but Guiber and Atom Brawley would definitely be 2 of the targets. One of them would have to get the Apollo'd, the other one would just go away for free. So, thinking about it, I really don't like this Atom Brawley here. Like, you get to save the Atom Brawley, have a card to draw. You can Apollo back the Divine Bird, draw a card for free, and then replay it next turn to set up your Guiber plays. So, it's a little bit curious that he chose to put out this kind of pressure here when he doesn't really know what kind of deck his opponent is playing. But I mean, even if it is the Spinning Myths version, it's very likely it doesn't get punished, and the Guiber will be able to start winning in the game. So probably that's what he's thinking in with this kind of play. Usually, I just like to get as much value out of the Atom Brawley as possible. But looks like we do have a Fiery Fox of Reincarnation that slightly more strongly suggests that it says Jack in the Beanstalk build, if only due to the fact that it's the only build from the previous weekend that actually played the Fiery Fox. But with people adapting to the meta, you never really know if they'll just start including that kind of tech into the traditional aggro build, the Spinning Myths build, that kind of thing. And if I do recall correctly, I think Jeremy Sammons was on the Pricia Skyscraper build, but I'm just trying to give you some analysis of what Zac should be kind of thinking about right here. So that's a pretty tame turn 2 for Pricia. Just gets out a Guinevere and a Fiery Fox, and this is going to represent a lot of mid-game potential. Pricia will be going on to 5 mana next turn, so Zac kind of wants to be thinking about how he can maybe kill that Sacred Elf, kill the Fiery Fox, or just start pushing face damage, whatever his hand really leans him more towards doing. Looks like he called a stone and got a Heat Ray there, so a nice white source. And there's the Rook Egg. And like I said, if he had saved the Adam Brawley here, this turn he could have, he could have like drawn an extra card by Apolloing the Divine Bird, playing it again, Adam Brawley, Rook Egg, a whole bunch of things like that. Looks like he's going to Fiery Fox for a stone to draw a card. Might go for a... Looks like he's trying to threaten Wall of Wind. I'm not sure why he did it so early, though. No, Gale Force, sorry. He's attacking with Guiber, so the play here is that he's trying to get a mana open for Gale Force. He's even, it looks like he doesn't yet have the Gale Force, but he is going to try and dig for it. So he's going to cycle a stone with the Fiery Fox to get a mana and draw a card, and then Guinevere for 2 more cards. So he's drawing 3 cards, getting a green mana, and hopefully trying to find that Gale Force. We'll see if he ends up doing it. Okay, I guess he didn't find it. I don't know why the Guinevere died, but he hasn't discarded a card yet. Did he discard? Hold on. Oh, this is going to be terrible. I'm so sorry. I just want to see. So he's got a Wall of Wind in the graveyard, and then he puts the stone, and then he pitches the Guinevere. I don't know. Oh, he. All right, I'm actually trying to understand exactly what happens here. So we'll go together. So cast Rook Egg. Okay, Rook Egg is cast. That's fine. Declare an attack with Guiber. Okay. So we're in the attack step. We're going to shuffle a stone, or cycle a stone here. We're going to get a stone in. We're going to draw a card, and then we're going to get a stone. So that's just an incorrect sequence of triggers. I guess what the judge's hand comes in yet. So he's supposed to bring in the stone before he draws a card. Usually irrelevant, but for the sake of on stream, you want to keep things tight. And then the Guinevere card to block. Guinevere cannot block Guiber. Oh, he's giving her flying. Okay, he gave the Guinevere flying so that he could block the Guiber. Okay, that's why he didn't discard a card. So then the Adam Brawley comes in and swings at the Sacred Elf. See, I don't like this play from the Pricia player. I think you can afford to just eat the 1200 damage, and you really just want to, like, when the Adam Brawley attacks the Sacred Elf, you just Guinevere, sacrifice the Sacred Elf, and then, draw 2 cards, and then try and get some value. Obviously, your opponent is already representing the Apollo Adam Brawley. So, obviously, Zac already has the Apollo and the Rook Egg on field, so we could Apollo back the Adam Brawley over a token and a Rook Egg, and shoot the then tapped Guinevere. So maybe you don't even bother saving her. You're pretty much resigned to the fact that your Guinevere and your Sacred Elf are both going to die this turn based on the board that Zac was representing. But you have the potential to draw 2 cards or take 1200 damage. And Jeremy went with the not take 1200 damage line. And I feel like that's just, when you're main decking Gale Force, as I assume he is, it's just not something you really need to worry about as much. You really just want to find your Mariabella as soon as possible so you can start picking apart the board states that Guiber is able to develop. And there still is no Death Scythe from Zac. So, again, drawing 2 cards represents potentially finding Regalia, which is going to just let you, have lethal out of nowhere because he hasn't found the Death Scythe yet. But Zac is still going to Adam Brawley over the Rook Egg and the token. It looks like he missed 100 damage by not attacking with the token first. His opponent had no blockers, so there was a free 100 damage he could have done there. We'll see if that comes back to bite him or not. And then he just plays the Adam Brawley, searches the Drag. Drag represents 2 minions that have died this turn. It's just the Rook Egg and the token. He's going to Tama to shoot the Fiery Fox. Is he going to Adam Brawley again? So, again, casting Adam... Okay, he's Tamahing his own token so that he can play Drake and Guiber. And I think this is strong. It looks like he's out of cards in hand, unfortunately, but he is representing lethal damage if Pricia does not leave open a blocker here. And again, Guinevere can just kind of find some more cards, give him some more answers, and just try and push as much damage as possible. Because Pricia has no Regalia, the threat of getting OTK'd is very unlikely. She can just flip and do 2,000, but there is still two 12-12 flyers that need to get through. And because Jeremy cycled a stone and then didn't kill the Gwyber and instead chose to block it with the Guinevere, you can reasonably assume that Jeremy doesn't have any Gale Force in hand. So there's a Leviathan. That's going to represent at least a decent amount of damage, but again, can't get through these 12-12 flyers. Yeah, three Gwybers, two Gwybers and a Drake, sorry, is really just difficult for Pricia to beat through at this point in the game, when you don't have things like Flame Trap or Gale Force represented. And I'm not really sure what the Pricia player can do to get back in here. Ooh, I left my drink on the ground. 1 second. So, yeah, not really sure what options are available here. I think the Pricia player really needed to try and find a Death Scythe, just so that Pricia could be pumped. So when Pricia has Leviathan, she can attack with swiftness, but she doesn't have the extra defense to be able to survive a block from a Gwyber or a Drake, so she wouldn't be able to attack again. She would just die. So you really need to find Death Scythe or Horn of the Sacred Beast to be able to give her defense a boost to get her to 1400 defense, so she can survive attacking twice and potentially kill two of the 12-12 flyers. And one of the cool things about the one of the cool things about the Pricia build with Maribella is that you have a lot of win conditions that aren't strictly your ruler. So when you flip Pricia and then you have enough defense to survive a Gwyber block, you can actually kill two Gwybers and then just banish your Leviathan to go back down to being a ruler if you use your God Art to attack twice. And then you still have killing two Gwybers for your ruler is absolutely huge, because you still have so many other threats in your deck, and you're usually drawing cards by cycling your stones. And here we see the Maribella. Impressive that he was able to J-activate. Oh, he didn't J-activate, sorry, he just cast Maribella. But yeah, if you do J-activate and just kill two Gwybers with your ruler, that gives you a huge swing, because you're eating through these win conditions of the Fiethsing deck. But again, he chose instead to block with the Guinevere a few turns ago, so just no Regalia available, only Leviathan. Instead, just getting a Maribella. Interesting. So, okay, so the reason for this is he's blocking with the Adam Brawley to avoid taking 10. I have to imagine that the Maribella was swinging at the Gwyber specifically. But now you can see that there is lethal damage represented on the side of the Fiethsing player. And this is, of course, yeah, he's using his ability to... Oh, how am I getting internet issues on a VOD? So yeah, Guinevere is going to pump the Gwyber. You've got 1200 damage, 2400 damage, 3600 damage, and then Guinevere's activated ability to pump up the Gwyber is going to be exactly 4000 damage in the air. And because... Wait, no, you have a Maribella blast counter. What is going on here? I forgot that he didn't actually kill the Gwyber. What is going on here? Why is he picking up his cards? Zach, you should be punished so hard right now when your opponent says, man, I lose. Alright, I don't know why the VOD is just shitting the bed. What is going on? Alright, we're going to skip the sideboards. I do believe his opponent just let Zach misplay horrendously, and then he won anyway. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, that was... He really did just pick up his cards, didn't he? I have to confirm. I have to make sure that, he has a blast counter. You can just shoot the Gwyber and it dies. Oh my lord. Oh no. See, that's what I was afraid. Oh dear. I forgot that. I knew he was gonna go to try and kill one of the Gwybers because it's the only way he didn't die, and then the Adam Brawley blocked. And in my mind, I was Gwyber plus Drake plus Adam Brawley is lethal, but then he blocked the Adam Brawley, and I'm oh, because he is lethal. I'm wait, no, the Maribella doesn't have to blast here. So Jeremy Sammons just concedes the game when he could have hard punished Zach, but force the little boys. So we're gonna go ahead and skip up to game 2. We're gonna be going to sideboards. Typically, the Fiethsing player will side deck into more copies of Death Scythe in this matchup, and the Pricia player will side deck into Gale Force and Flame Trap. So we'll see if those cards come in. I think there's another card. Sometimes Fiethsing sides into Gale Force as well. Sometimes, if there's room, you'll see a second copy of Earther, because it's the only way to deal with Skyscraper Giant and with Pricia after she flips in the Fiethsing deck. So We'll see what ends up happening. There's a Gale Force in the hand, so yeah, the Gale Force does come in for the Fiethsing player. And the Pricia player, despite losing, has chosen to go second. I believe that strongly suggests that it is a Skyscraper Pricia. Obviously, Zac didn't get to see much in game 1, just kind of won the game around turn 3, turn 4. But your opponent choosing to go second usually tells you a lot about the deck. The Spinning Myths version doesn't usually need to go second as much because they don't need the Torrent when they have a 3-mana play on turn 2, whereas the Skyscraper Giant build does. You need to have 3 mana and then be able to call a stone to give your Jack swiftness and flying. So going second strongly indicates Skyscrapers, and we'll see how Zac uses that information here. Calls a red stone, unfortunate. Definitely the worst stone to call turn 1. Going to represent a Guinevere. Yeah, pretty much the only play outside of a Rook Egg. We do have a Horn, and looks like that's the only Regalia, so a pretty weak start overall from Pricia once again. Alright, gonna call a stone, go to turn 2. And still no 1-drops in the hand. It looks like he kept a very defensive opener with the Gale Force and then just kind of found a couple more 12-12 flyers than he really could utilize at the moment. So a slow start gives Pricia a lot of opportunities to try and find openings. But it doesn't look like there's too much threat available at the hand of the Pricia player. It does have 1 Regalia. If he can find a second Regalia here, or I guess he would need a 3rd Regalia, he could potentially represent lethal damage off the back of a flip. Oh, wow. So what needs to happen here is... oh boy. Maybe he does... I can't imagine that the Pricia player would even have a Sacred Elf in his hand. Oh no, that's punishing. Double red stones early on. That is both of the non-red green stones in the entire deck of the Pricia player. So definitely a worst case scenario. And yeah, he's just going to pass turn. He does have green available thanks to his Energize, but just choosing not to use it here. Probably also has a lot of reactive cards such as the Flame Trap and the Gale Force that we mentioned earlier. Probably no Regalia, or else he could have just like played them and then flipped with his Energize and then just threatened lethal out of nowhere. But going on to 3 mana for the Pricia player, Zac over here. I'm sorry, for the Fiethsing player. Look at this. I'm trying to like say Pricia versus Fiethsing. I'm still getting them wrong. So 3 mana for Fiethsing is usually Fiethsing's most explosive turn, but because of the slow opener that Fiethsing has been experiencing, it can still be very difficult to get anything going. Looks like the hand contains an Apollo, a Gwyber, a Gale Force, an Earther, and 2 other cards. And we'll see another turn 3 pass from Fiethsing, and still, yeah, turn 2 pass from Pricia. Just very awkward openers. I expect that once the cards start coming down, everything is just going to die immediately, just based on what's been going on. Still no flip from Pricia. So there's no potential for an Earther to really like punish here if you flip early, just because there's no cards in graveyard, no Guinevere obviously at the hands of Zac. If the Pricia player does have a Leviathan or a Death Scythe or anything like that, he should be playing it right now, flipping his ruler, not attacking because there's Death Scythe, and then just winning the game next turn. Like he cannot possibly whiff on a Scott Art because he's already seen both Mono Stones, but just chooses not to go for it. Not a huge deal really overall. I would be disappointed to find if he does have another Regalia, because he could have set up lethal last turn by Energize flipping and then playing the Fiery Fox instead of calling a stone, basically. Ooh, oh my goodness, I'm knocking everything around, I apologize. Okay, so that's the 3rd Regalia, and there is the Guinevere. That's going to help enable this Earther by discarding some of these dragons. And of course, I would also anticipate at least 1, if not a 2nd Gwyber coming down here. We will see what is actually in the hand of Zac as he plays out this turn. I think it was a Gwyber, a Drake, a Gale Force. So, a little bit more difficult. See, he could have not played the Apollo here and just hardcast the Gwyber for 3 mana and then produced a token, but I think he still wants to represent the Gale Force. Because if Pricia does call a stone here and gives the Fox flying, then he can just Gale Force it. Or same thing if a Jack and the Beanstalk comes down, or if a Mariabella comes out as well. So he's going to Energize a Gale Force at end of turn. Interesting that he would choose to use it on this energized token. I'm guessing that he doesn't want the Guinevere to sack it off to get value. But if he did use the Guinevere, he could just attack into it, I feel. Not super important. Okay, he does want to use a second Gale Force, and that's going to get both Apollos out of the way. And Zac decides that he wants to save his Gwyber, which isn't bad. Definitely, Gwyber is one of those cards where it's just you're gonna win the game with Gwyber, so you want to keep it alive as much as possible. Interesting that Jeremy chose to expend so many resources to try and do it, though, using the Energize and I guess the Fox activation isn't really much of a resource, but double Gale Force and the Energize. The Energize is like pretty brutal when you're sitting on these kind of stones. And also, he chose to draw a card by banishing the Pricia's, the Memoria of Reincarnation, instead of banishing one of his Fire Magic stones. He does have a Horn on the field, so if he chooses to banish a Fire Magic stone instead of a Pricia's Memoria, he would be able to Horn his graveyard back into his deck, and then if he does have the Maribella, he could cast the Maribella, and then search his deck for the Fire Magic Stone and replay it, and just give himself more mana to work with. In addition, being locked onto double fire with two of your stones is pretty painful overall. Not something you're really... Like, your deck is a decent bit green, so you don't want to just sit on double Firestone for like half the entire game. So that's another reason maybe he should have gone for the Firestone instead. And we look at, his turn 2 was just pass turn, so he doesn't have a lot of red cards in his hand, at least what we can assume. So he is just still digging here with the Pricia's Memoria. That strongly indicates that he does not have a Maribella. Maybe has a Jack and the Beanstalk here, wants to float the green, get another green, and then just go off with the... Yep, that's a Jack. Yep, there we go. And again, we do have a Gale Force in the hand of the Fiethsing player, so he has to give the Jack flying, because otherwise he'll just get jump blocked by the 1/1. So he does kind of have to play into the Gale Force. Not really an option when your opponent does have blockers. And yeah, the Gale Force will come down. So good heads up from Zac to, instead of just playing the Gwyber for 3 mana and like saving the Apollo in his hand, just making sure that he has the play available to beat that. It looks like his opponent goes, how many mana open, as he grabs his green stone, and then Zac's like, yeah, I have this blue stone. So yeah, no Wall of Wind going to be cast here, and that is a set card. Interesting. So I think we can assume that that is a Flame Trap. I am racking my brain for potential other cards in red and green colors for a chance standby. Ambush, I think Ambush lets you cheat in a 3-drop green creature, and I don't remember the trigger activation for it. But I mean, against Fiethsing, like Fiethsing player has to 100% assume that this is a Flame Trap. So we'll see if Zac plays around that effectively. There are, because of the ruling change to chance standbys, Flame Trap is a state-based chance standby, so it's only going to be able to activate it when the player who has it set has priority, which means that Zac can play Resonators to increase his Resonator count to 4, and then he can hold priority, use things like Apollo, Leviathan, or Guinevere to remove Resonators from his own field, and then pass priority to Jeremy, and Jeremy won't be able to activate Flame Trap. The old ruling was that as soon as the trigger condition is met, which means as soon as Zac has 4 Resonators on board, Jeremy could flip Flame Trap, and it would go on the chase as soon as Jeremy had priority, basically. It would effectively steal priority, but they got rid of that because it was insanely confusing, as I'm sure you are realizing with just me talking about it. So we go up to 5 stones. Looks like we've only got 1 Ruler's Memoria. Looks like 2 red-white, 1 red-blue, 1 red-green, and this is going to be a Tama here for Zac. Just going to draw a card, and as soon as he plays another card here, it's going to trigger the Torrent trigger from Fiethsing. Going to go up to 3 Resonators. And he's going to have to use this Guinevere on his turn, basically, to ensure that he's playing around Flame Trap as much as possible. There's the Apollo. Going to get the Torrent trigger, going to get a token, and he has to be... whoa! Oh. I was like, whoa, he's grabbing his Flame Trap, and he's actually just reading the card. Like, that doesn't telegraph Flame Trap as hard as possible. I mean, Flame Trap is one of those cards, if you just started playing Pricia, you're just like, this needs to be in my sideboard, but you can probably forget, like, ooh, is it Sign of the Future? Is it if my opponent has 3 or more? Depends on how much you've really played the deck or played the game, that kind of thing. Okay, so Adam Brawley over double green again. I really hate Adam Brawling over double green. Sometimes you have to do it. Like there's not really any option that you have to really beat it. But he wants to make sure that he's not getting flame trapped here. Wants to be able to replay this Gwyber. But Gwyber's going to cost 3 mana because this Guinevere is old. And he is using the floating white. I think the judge is like, that costs 3 mana, bro. And yeah, that's yeah, I think you just play it for 3 mana. That's fine. What he could have, yeah. All right, so what are we doing? Yeah, we are playing the Gwyber. You have to play the Gwyber. Yeah, 3 mana Gwyber. He didn't realize that the Guinevere had just, I mean, you're so used to Gwyber just being 1 mana in this deck at all times. And he sees 2 Resonators in the field. He's like, yeah, this entered the field this turn, but unfortunately, no. And then he's going to tap another stone. No, he already had the Tama. That stone tapped for green for Tama. So just Gwyber Adam Brawley past turn. Not particularly strong, especially when your opponent is sitting at 4,000 life. And again, the Pricia version of this, the Skyscraper version of Pricia does have a very, very powerful mid game. And because he does have the Horn, he does have the Fiery Fox, Mariabella here would be very powerful at just, you know, picking up, especially with Flame Trap. Like, Mariabella plus Flame Trap is absolutely devastating to Fiethsing because you can't keep your board small or else you just get picked apart by Mariabella and you just take a bunch of damage. And if you go too wide trying to like leave open blockers, then Flame Trap kills all of your little guys, kills your Guineveres, kills your tokens, kills your Adam Brawleys, and then Mariabella is able to just kill off your Gwybers because they've already taken ender damage. So this is a very strong position for the Pricia player to be in, and really Zac is just not finding enough threats. I don't know if he has an answer to this Flame Trap. I'm assuming it has to be like Seal of Winulite at all. And why? What? Okay, so oh no. So Jeremy plays Mariabella for 4 mana and searches his deck, and then realizes that there is 2 Fire Magic Stones already on the field. So he misses the opportunity to get a blast counter here, and doesn't use his Fiery Fox to cycle that in. What you can actually do here, which is really, really cool, is you can cast Mariabella. So this is interesting. So this is kind of weird, right? You can give Swiftness and Flying to Mariabella, but you don't really have to give Flying to Mariabella. You can give... It looks like what happened here is he pointed to Mariabella and said Resonance triggers, and then Zac is like, oh, Pricia Resonance triggers, Gale Force, but he actually meant the Mariabella triggers. So we'll see where Jeremy's actually assigning the Swiftness and Flying. It looks like he's not going to cast it after all. Looks like the Breeze counter might come down first. I'm not sure. It doesn't even make sense for him to... So what could happen here is Jeremy could trigger the Mariabella and Pricia Resonance triggers in such a way that he goes, add a Breeze counter, add a Blast counter, give Swiftness, give Flying. And then the Breeze counter would resolve first. It would have a Breeze counter, and then shit would happen, and then it would get Flying. And then Zac could go, okay, cast Gale Force. And then Jeremy could go Fiery Fox, pitch a stone, call a stone, and it's guaranteed to be a green stone because he's already seen his 2 Fire Magic Stones. So then he would get a second Breeze counter, and then he would be able to remove both Breeze counters and basically double Wall of Wind the Gale Force, and the Gale Force wouldn't resolve here. But it looks like Zac is just choosing not to cast the Gale Force at all. I'm curious if the Flying just didn't end up going there, or if Zac is aware that it didn't happen. And yeah, here comes the Resonance triggers for the second stone. So what I was saying is, if you cast Mariabella, right, you put her trigger on the chase. So she's entered the field, and then you put her trigger on the chase to search your deck for a basic Magic Stone. Then you chase with Fiery Fox, pitch your Fire Magic Stone, and then get a new stone. New stone comes in. Mariabella gets Blast and Breeze counter. Then you horn your graveyard back in, shuffle back in the Fire Magic Stone, and then Mariabella effect resolves off the chase. You search your Fire Magic Stone, get another Blast counter, and then you call a stone. So basically, he still could have gotten the the Fiery Fox, and had the Resonance triggers from the Fiery Fox's Stone go apply to the Mariabella if he had done that on the chase like I'm describing, but he chooses not to. And the Gale Force here is coming down on the Fiery Fox, but he has double Wall of Wind. Why are you actually casting Wall of Wind when you have Breeze counters? You have Breeze counters! What? Okay, so Wall of Wind can be cast on any card, whereas Breeze counters can only be cast on chance, and Fiethsing plays like 4 chance total. It's like Bear Magic, Heavenly Gust, Gale Force, and Seal of Wind and Light. So Wall of Wind is infinitely more valuable than breeze counters, especially like when you can like double breeze this Gale Force and then leave open double Wall of Wind on your opponent's turn anyway. I think that's just a strict misplay from Jeremy here, but it means it means that Zac does now have to worry about the breeze counters anyway. But that's just I don't really agree with that. I think you should always use the breeze counters before you just try and Wall of Wind. But we'll see. Alright, so we got 5 stones, 6 stones. 6 stones for Fiethsing. Looks like 2 or 3 cards in hand. And we still have to play around that Flame Trap. So what is Zac going to do here to try and beat this? He's thinking intently, as all good players should do. Just going to go ahead and attack for 12 here. Another important thing that happened with missing the Fiery Fox Horn interaction was that the Mariabella would have 3 blast counters at this point if he had done that play properly, and 3 blast counters kills a Gwyber. And now the fact that he only does 1,000 damage with Mariabella means that he can't kill Gwyber. So it's like you're really just like missing the opportunity to not take 1,200 damage here. Additionally, he could kill Adam Brawley and Guinevere with triple blast. Like, there's a lot of things you can do, and you should try and optimize your plays at all times. Okay, so this is an Earther. That's probably gonna hit the Mariabella, and yeah, he could just, you know, chuck off some blast counters here and kill things. But here comes the... So what has to happen here is Zac has to use Earther to target the Mariabella and then immediately hold priority to either Apollo it or Guinevere. And it seems that... Okay, so this is a problem, because if you're removing the cards from your graveyard for Earther, that implies that you're passing priority, because Earther does not remove the cards from the graveyard until resolution of the effect. So you declare target, you pass priority, your opponent has a chance to respond, and then you remove the cards. In this case, Earther would declare a target, and then Guinevere or Apollo should be cast in order to prevent that. And it's just not happening. So this Flame Trap should be definitely going off right now because his opponent has a chance to respond. His opponent is using the Mariabella counters. So Zac has passed priority. And at this point, if he's using Mariabella instead of Flame Trap, I have to absolutely assume that this is not a Flame Trap set, in which case I have no idea what it possibly could be. So it's the first activation, second activation. I'm not sure if he's targeting the Earther or if he's targeting the Adam Brawley here. Guinevere going to sack Earther. And so, yeah, Zac didn't play around Flame Trap very well at all, but it looks like it's not a Flame Trap. So, interesting from both sides here. It looks like his hand is Heavenly Gust, Guinevere, and Divine Bird of Ataraxia. I have to feel like the bird gets pitched here. Maybe Heavenly Gust. Heavenly Gust is, yeah, the bird goes. Like, your opponent just represents lethal at any time if they just find a Heavenly Gust. Sorry, Pricia represents lethal. If Pricia just like plays Heavenly Gust, they go play literally anything, play Heavenly Gust, flip my ruler, kill you in the air. Like, that's just a guaranteed thing that happens at this point when Pricia has 5 stones. Once the Death Scythe goes down, there's not a lot that Fiethsing can really do anymore. But it looks like he does choose to discard the Divine Bird instead, and then if Pricia ever does flip, he'll just use the Heavenly Gust to kill the Leviathan, preventing Pricia from having swiftness without Goddarding, and then preventing, you know, up to 2,000 damage. Or 22 even in this case. So Apollo on the Guinevere. So he attacked for 6, and then Apollo'd his Guinevere. And then he Heavenly Gusted. And he gets a token. Why did he Apollo his Guinevere? So Leviathan vanishes for Imperishable Horn. Okay, so I think we've already established that this isn't Flame Trap set. It looks like Zac is still playing around Flame Trap because he Apollo'd the Guinevere. Obviously, if he plays Heavenly Gust, the token goes on the chase, and then that would be his 4th Resonator. But he's already given his opponent an opportunity to Flame Trap, and his opponent didn't do it. I'm wondering if maybe what happened here is that neither player really recognized the flame trap potential there, and thought that like there was still like a way to play around it with Apollo or Guinevere or something. But in my mind, that's no longer flame trap. I've already played 4 resonators. You know, I've already passed priority with 4 resonators on the board. If that flame trap was a flame trap, then it would have been flipped immediately, and I should be losing the game right now. But instead it didn't happen, so I safely assume that it's no longer a flame trap, but Zac is still playing around it for some reason. So I wonder if there was just a miscommunication on like the sequence of events that transpired. Maybe Zac and his opponent didn't realize that flame trap could have been activated because there were other things happening. A lot of possibilities. It's hard to tell without actually being in the game itself. So we'll assume that Zac still assumes that that is a flame trap face down, and that is why he chose not to. That's why he chose to Apollo the Guinevere there. But interestingly, you really can't play around flame trap forever against Pricia, especially Skyscraper Pricia. You have to just chuck out enough blockers to not die to the kind of things that Pricia can do. So you are going to have to play into it eventually, and I feel like if your opponent doesn't have any way to deal an extra 400 damage to this Guiber, if they're just getting, you know, an Adam Brawley, a token, and a Guinevere, and you just like Apollo one of them back in response to the flame trap, I think that's fine. So if you are suspecting it's still a flame trap down there, I think that's the best time you have to play into it, because now you're still locked into playing around flame trap for the rest of the game. And yeah, here comes a Pricia flip. Sure, you have Death Scythe, like good job, but you know that's still going to represent a lot of damage coming at you in the following turns. And there's another horn that got cast on the side of the Pricia player, so it's a lot of damage being represented from the Pricia when it gets to attack next turn. So now Zac has to leave open his Guiber as a blocker. It will die to Pricia because Pricia will be able to tap Horn before untap, tap Horn after untap, and have 1400 defense. What happened? Oh. Okay, so the Pricia flip chose the mode of Resonator, and he cycled a stone before doing it, and then he used Pricia to bring out the Maribella. And there's a Fire Magic Stone in the graveyard, so how is there still a fire? This guy has not been prioritizing his Maribellas at all. He hasn't been putting Fire Magic Stones back in his deck very effectively. It looks like he's going to do it now, but he could have had like both of these in the deck a while ago if he had been prioritizing it. He just prioritized drawing cards. But yeah, here comes the Horn. Going to shuffle back in the Death Scythe, going to shuffle back in the Fire Magic Stone. Maribella's going to grab a Fire Magic Stone, and that'll be able to kill Guiber if he flame traps, so that's useful. We'll see how Zac plays around this. He does have enough mana to J-activate, and flame trap only hits. Flame trap can only be activated if your opponent controls 4 or more resonators. Fiethsing does not count as a resonator, so we'll see how he chooses to do that. That was interesting. Just drops Earther onto the table accidentally. Now we know that's there. And that's a breeze counter or blast counter for Maribella. 4 mana open. Yeah, things just aren't looking super good. Is that a Regalia on the table, or is that the Fire Magic Stone? That's the Fire Magic Stone. So only 3,000 damage actually represented from Pricia next turn. So unless he just God Arts right here, which I think would be ridiculous because that only gives Maribella swiftness because there's still a Death Scythe on the field. Let's see what happens. Yeah, he doesn't have enough damage. Okay, so he does potentially have like the ability to cast a Resonator next turn, and that would be the 4,000 damage. But Zac very strongly needs to just leave open his Guiber as a blocker, and yeah, him leaving this Flame Trap there and now like trying to play around it, it's just too late in the game. Pricia's Goddard just giving everything swiftness and flying means you cannot survive if you're only playing with 3 blockers. Like, you just have to get the Flame Trap out of the way. If you did Inside and Seals, then you just need to play 4 Resonators, like the 4 weakest Resonators you can, and hope that your opponent Flame Traps it. And he had an opportunity to do that, I think, a couple turns ago and chose not to. And now he's realizing the error of his ways. He's like, wow, I played around Flame Trap, but it's still there, so bad news bears. And of course, now he also has no Apollo, has no Guinevere, so if the Flame Trap does come down, his board is just getting wiped. He's not getting any additional value out of it because he's already used all of his like protection resources. And if he attacks with this Guiber, that's GG. That's, yeah, he just, I mean, you have to assume there's a strong enough resonator in the hand of the Fiethsing, of the Pricia player, that he can just deal 4,000 damage in the air right here. Unless, you know, perhaps, is there a Leviton in the hand of Zac? He's just trying to... It would have to be like Leviton Apollo. That's the only way that he actually wins this game, and I don't think he has either of those. He's only got 3 cards. I believe we know 2 of them are Guinevere, so yeah. No way for Zac to win this game. Just kind of... He had to leave the Gwyber open as a blocker, chose not to, and now, yeah, he's pretty much done. So this... If Zac has a Rook Egg and an Adam Brawley in hand... I'm sorry. So he doesn't have those cards because we know he has 2 Guinevere. If he has a Adam Brawley in hand, right? So he has the Guinevere, and then he can play the Guinevere, sack it to Adam Brawley, and then deal the additional 400 damage to the Maribella. That would kill it, and potentially stop lethal next turn, and potentially give Zac lethal next turn, because he still has the 1200 damage flying. But there is... Alright, we'll see. I think Zac is playing this turn pretty poorly, even if he does have the Adam Brawley. Because, I mean, it's a very high likelihood it just dies. I don't know how many cards are in the hand of the Pricia player here, but he just needs either a Maribella or a Jack to just have lethal damage. Okay, Maribella shoots a token. I mean, why not, right? So I'm trying to think of cards that just automatically win the game, because he's got 3,000 damage, right? The Pricia player has 2 Pricia attacks and a Maribella, so that's 3,000. They're all flying, we can assume. And then Guinevere would be able to sacrifice itself, draw 2 cards, hope to find a Maribella or a Jack in the Beanstalk. Any Regalia plus like other 1-drops could pump Pricia a lot to just like deal lethal damage. Like, it's possible he doesn't lose here, but I think there's 2. So here's another problem I have with okay. So the problem I have with the Maribella shooting the 1/1 here is that Pricia is only going to be able to call 2 stones next turn, and by calling 2 stones, the Maribella would be able to get to 3 blast counters, which would be able to shoot a Gwyber, which could potentially stop the impending lethal that Jeremy's presenting. But instead, Maribella shot the 1/1 token, which was largely irrelevant, and now there's no way for it to get to 3 tokens, or three blast counters, because the only way he can call 2 stones is if he attacks Goddard's attacks again. Those 2 resonance triggers. There's no way for him to get more stones unless he like Goddard's and then plays Fiery Fox maybe. But I think he's already gone through 2 Fiery Fox. Obviously they've been horned back, but you know they're in the deck. They haven't been sitting in his hand. All right, so there's the Guinevere. There's going to draw him some cards. Hopefully try and find lethal here. That's a Jack in the Beanstalk. It looks like 3 mana. Interesting that he's doing all of this before attacking. I guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so just declare an attack, Goddard, and then lethal on board. That is a Jack, right? Or is that an Earther? I'm like I'm like moving back and forth trying to get around the glare, and I'm like watching a video. I don't know what I'm doing. Alright, so this game has been going on for about 46 minutes now, perhaps a little bit less. Not really sure how much time would be left in the round at this point in the game, but I think it's definitely a consideration. We'll have to see how quickly Game 3 ends up ending. I think the time is a factor we should be thinking about as we get there. This Game 2 has been very long. 5 whole stones, very long. Alright, so Pricia, go ahead and declare an attack. Goddard, Unrest, Swiftness flying to the board. So Earther Guinevere is actually 1,000 damage. So if it isn't Earther, it's going to be Earther deals 8, Guinevere deals 2, Maribel deals 10, Pricia deals 10, Pricia deals 10, that's 40. So that is lethal, whether or not it is a Jack or an Earther. So, I mean, 1 blue mana open. The only thing that could possibly happen is Bear Magic, but we do know his hand is double Guinevere, so he points to the face down. It's a... Well, he isn't... Oh, I wanted to know. Oh well. Okay, so I think that instead of J activating, Zac should have just played double Guinevere. I don't know if he has any more Gale Force in his deck. Maybe that was what he was thinking about. If you play double Guinevere instead of flipping, You just cycle. You get to draw 4 cards. Look for your look for anything really, and you even have a Death Scythe in hand. So instead of playing the Death Scythe, you just leave it in your hand, and then you get to draw like actually 4 cards. You just try and find a Gale Force, make sure that the Maribella can't hit you for 1,000, and then you can go ahead and you know, have another turn basically to try and get that Gwyber in there. But instead he just deactivates, which I think was, I mean, it depends on how many Gale Force and how many Bear Magic he has left in his deck. I'm assuming that he knows. Yeah, it looks like his Bear Magics didn't come in at all. So probably just didn't have access to those. Knew how many cards were in his deck. I'm going to assume that's not a misplay. But if he did have literally any copies of Gale Force or Bear Magic still in his deck at that point, he shouldn't have deactivated, and he should have flipped. He should have just played double Guinevere and kept the Death Scythe in hand. But that will be game 2. And it doesn't look like he sided any cards. I think he just kind of looked through it and then decided not to. But we are just going to go ahead and switch to... It appears that my mouse has actually died. I don't know how I'm going to stop recording this video now. Oh dear. Oh dearie me. Ooh. So, I actually have a... Oh god, why? What have I done? Alright, we're getting into game 3 here. And, I just have a dead mouse. What do I do? Oh no. Everything is falling apart on me. I got some triple A's in here. I don't think I have triple A's in my apartment. Alright, so game 3. Looks like Fiethsing is going second here. So Zac stole the play, or stole the draw away from Pricia. I think that's fine, depending on how many Gale Force you play. But yeah, now you are staring down Sacred Oath, Death Scythe. No Leviathan, thankfully, so no turn 2 OTK. Alright guys, this is a real problem. I don't know how I'm gonna turn off my video here at the end. I'm like brainstorming. If I alt tab to... Oh dear, okay. I don't know, guys. Energizing for the Tama. I'm assuming this represents turn 1 Gwyber. He did find the white source off of his stone. So, Regalia, Tama, Gwyber. All you really need to make sure this turn 1 Gwyber fight happens. And I don't see a Gwyber in his hand, so... Looks like it's going to be a Guinevere instead. Rook Egg. Ooh, Adam Brawley. Have the Adam Brawley. Punish. Kill the Sacred Elf. Have a good time. Asking his opponent for Wall of Wind here. Does have the green mana available because of the Sacred Elf. Just kind of waiting to see if this Rook Egg resolves. Does some thumb motions. And yeah, does not appear that there is a Wall of Wind available. Not really sure why. I think he's like debating it. Maybe that's why this is like a hard play. I feel like he would pass turn immediately if he didn't have another option. So, oh, that's time in the round. My bad. So turn 0 is Zac, and I don't think there's any way for Zac to win the game in such a small amount of time. Pricia potentially can, but we'll see if without a Sacred Elf if that's even possible. I think it's unlikely. I think that we will end up seeing a draw here. I don't actually remember what the end of the game was. I had like watched some of it when it was live streamed, but I know Zac ended up first seed. So since he can't win this game, I think it's a draw. Like I don't see any way for Zac to actually win this game. But all he has to do is not lose. So if he goes XO1, that would still put him at first seed. So I assume. Gonna go ahead and pass the stones back over to his opponent. Guys, I'm seriously, I don't know what to do about my mouse. 1 second, I'm gonna try and like plug it in, plug it back in, do something. We'll see if anything happens here on the Pricia. Ooh. Beep, boop, beep. Oh no. Everything has gone so awry. I just don't have a mouse. Unlucky. Okay, so let's turn 0. Just goes ahead and kills the Sacred Elf. This is really all you need to do. Just make sure that your opponent can't like turn 2, flip cheese, do anything crazy like that. And what's Pricia's best option to win here, right? It's probably just like jam 4 Regalia and then call a stone. I'd hope to win on the last turn, but 2 stones? Sets Flame Trap. That is incredibly reactive. That doesn't make any sense, actually. There's actually no way for Zac to win this game because he has to. This is his last turn, and he has exactly 800, 1,000 damage. That's nowhere near 4,000. There's no way for Zac to win this game at all. So what Jeremy needs to be doing is being as proactive as possible, and this Flame Trap only means that like Zac needs to not be a poo brain. Zac just needs to use his Apollo, play a Flyer or a Death Scythe. Another thing is here, there's no Leviathan for the Pricia player, so there's really no way that this doesn't end in a draw, in my opinion. Zac even has a Gale Force in hand, so Zac just needs to sacrifice his Guinevere, draw 2 cards, try and find Death Scythe, play that Divine Bird of Ataraxia, so there's like literally no way this Pricia wins the game, and then it's a draw. So, and meanwhile, I need to figure out how to fix this mouse. Oh my god. Oh no, I'm... Alright. Please. Oh my god, I did it. Okay, we got it, boys. We'll be able to stop the video on time. Nice. Okay. So there's the Divine Bird still holding open. Oh, but he... Oh, right, he... Alright, so how do you get enough... See, I don't like this, right? He has Gale Force in hand, which is one of the ways that he probably needs to not lose the game, in theory. I mean, it probably doesn't matter, but in theory, you don't want to play this Divine Bird with your green mana, because you want to leave open green mana on your... What are you doing? No! He's digging for Death Scythe, but all he needs is that Divine Bird as a blocker. Oh dear. Oh me. Oh my. Oh no. Oh no. He has left himself wide open to lose this game. And I don't think it's going to happen because there's no Leviathan on the Pricia side, but if there was any way to fuck this up, Zac found it. Like, you just needed to represent Gale Force if possible. Like, you have an Adam Brawley. Like, okay, so what you do here, instead of what Zac did, is you sack your Guinevere to herself after untap, because this game is only lasting 1 more turn. Guinevere is now irrelevant. You no longer need to keep her alive at all costs. You draw 2 more cards. You find the second Apollo, because you do 2 more cards. You play it. You play, like, you sacrifice the... Oh, you need a green resonator. Do you have any more 1-drops in your hand? Do you have a Rook Egg or anything? Another Guinevere? Just like any red 1-drop or a blue 1-drop to play. Sacrifice Adam Brawley in that to produce green mana. Play the Divine Bird of Ataraxia with the green mana, and then hold open the Rulers of Moria for Gale Force. And then you win the game. That's it. You did it. Good job. But instead, he's having no flyers available. He has no green mana available on his opponent's turn. And that's just scary. But again, no Leviathan for Pricia, so it's going to be largely irrelevant, is what it seems like. But if the Pricia player top-deck Leviathan, it's a possibility that he could have won this game. So I don't enjoy watching misplays go unpunished, but in reality there are very few things that Pricia actually has to worry about. Yep, and then Pricia draws a card, no Leviathan, just gonna give the handshake. So that is Zac Smithson versus Jeremy Sammons. Does end in a draw. I hope you guys found this insightful. Zac, I hope you realized that you didn't misplay as bad as you think you did. Just a few things to think about in the long run there. And well played, everyone. And this has been Ryan Miles from On Tilt Gaming. I found out how to turn on my mouse, and thanks for watching, guys.